this one is written to Sansara, but it can be addressed to anybody, basically. They say, you bash the Bible. Then you continue to make a sweeping statement, quote, all religions are more or less the same. Can you back up this statement? Please cite examples from all religions, or take your claim back. I don't expect you to cite all, but perhaps please just explain the phrase that all religions are more or less the same, and I guess we should start with Sansara.
Okay, well, all religions are the same in the sense that they're made up. And all religions are, no, they're all myths. They're all myths made by different human societies. They all reflect the times and the morality of those who make them up. And then they're reinterpreted by human authorities. All religions come from human authorities and from the human mind, and they get spread and enforced in different ways. And then in the world today, the major religions, the major monotheistic religions are all Islam, Christianity, and Judaism are all come from a similar epoch, and they all have, you know, things like, I'm speaking first to what's similar, the oppression of women, the owning of women, the trading of human beings as slaves, the plunder of your rival tribe, the neighbor, the people who worship the wrong God. There's some things about them because they were written in similar conditions and they shared from each other's traditions, and there's more of this that's actually discussed in Avakian's book. It goes through the debates of the early, you know, Christian disciples and the debates they had as they spread this, and similarly with the rise of Islam and where this came from. So there's similarities in the historic development of the major religions, and then there is a similarity of all religions that they are fantastical, and they ask you to believe that their fantastical claims, which are made up, are not only true but are the defining element of what makes human experience. And that's where they're all similar, and they all take you away from a rational scientific understanding of the world. They are different, and I'll try to be brief. There are differences, though. There are people who's, you know, and they play different roles. There's people with spiritual beliefs, Native Americans with different indigenous, you know, beliefs about the gods or other peoples around, I mean, the gods of nature and these sorts of things that play a much less harmful role in the world, the social role. There's many religions that are frankly much less dominant in the world because they weren't taken up by conquerors and spread with the sword and the gun, but that are less oppressive and that have been shaped by people who've been oppressed or people who have just been before there's been a development of science and not had access to all of those things, and they play a different role. And again, there's a role for unity and struggle in a movement and in the struggle for human emancipation with people who are motivated by religious beliefs and by making differentiation between different religious beliefs and even different interpretations of the major religions. But at their core, I keep coming back to, and I will continue to, people need to understand reality, and all myths are a leap away from that, and they interfere with your understanding of reality, because the myths that people believe as religion are not just things they happen to believe, but they're taken as the defining thing about reality. We need art, we need the imagination, we need many things that are not real that we allow ourselves to engage, but when we take them as if they are real, that's when they become religion, and that's when they become harmful.
Your answer is useful, because you haven't touched the Vedic perspective, or the perspective of the scriptures of ancient India, which have a completely different view on religion. It's not just a set of rules which oppresses human beings, but actually it teaches a transcendental science which purifies the consciousness. That's another subject matter, which also is a dogmatic thing in your presentation, that consciousness, we talk about reality, things are real. Science cannot define consciousness, cannot explain consciousness. It's completely beyond science at the moment. There's theories about it, but you don't really know where it's coming from. You cannot create life from chemicals, it's not been proven. So it's dogmatic to say that. Just as many religions are very dogmatic in their views. So the Vedic scriptures really teach a science which purifies the consciousness, which claims basically that the consciousness is good, is full of divine qualities, tolerance, forgiveness, mercy. Basically, and we see in all traditions that you have saints who actually know the purpose of religion and understand it and purify their consciousness and exhibit these qualities. That's verifiable.
I think we're going to have to move on, unfortunately.
I'd like to actually make a comment on that.
Yeah, make a brief,
So-
brief statement.
So I'm always baffled by the idea that somebody who makes statements on behalf of science and reason is accused of being dogmatic. And then what we hear instead is a series of statements for which there is in fact absolutely no evidence whatsoever, and they're taken on faith, and they're not supposed to be dogmatic. I mean, for instance, you said that consciousness is beyond science, that science can't do anything about it. Well, I beg to differ. There's been a science of consciousness for the last 20 years, and neurobiologists have learned a hell of a lot more about consciousness than any Vedic, Buddhist, or whatever else scripture you want to bring up. So, you know, this idea that well, do you want me to give you a seminar in neurobiology within the next 5 minutes? I mean, I can give you a couple of books, however. That's what academics get away with, that when they don't have the time, they say, well, you can read this book. So for instance, one of the books that you might want to read on that is Antonio Damasio's The Feeling of What Happens. It's a pretty good starting point. But so the basic point that I was trying to make, however, is that it really seems strange to defend religion, whatever religion, not just the Judeo-Christian Muslim tradition, but any other religion, on the basis of attacking the other side for dogmatism. I mean, if there's one thing that defines science, is in fact precisely the fact that dogmatic statements are never accepted. And the reason they're never accepted is because there is a high premium in science in shooting down whoever makes the big statements. One of the things that I find very interesting and amusing about creationism, for instance, is that the creationists say that there is a worldwide conspiracy of evolutionary biologists to keep the truth among themselves and not share with the rest of humanity. And that Darwinism is a dogma. Well, Charles Darwin is the biggest target that there has ever been in biology. Every biologist dreams of doing better than Darwin. And they've tried. The fact of the matter is it's pretty damn difficult because the guy was really brilliant. But other than that, there is a premium in science in trying to, in fact, take apart ideas, to try to improve ideas. And, it's a human enterprise, so it's not perfect. I'm not suggesting that science is certainly not scientists. Scientists are used as individuals. They are after the same things that everybody else is after: money, glory, and sex. And not necessarily in that order. But science as a process works pretty well, actually, from that perspective. And I really find it interesting that scientists are the ones that get accused of dogmatism, and usually that accusation comes from religious people. And I find that ironic.